the co-host. And so, yeah, I'm also the communications person with ARC 2020. So ARC 2020 works on agri-food policy and on promoting agroecology, and on food system issues more generally and rural issues more generally. We work on communication, on networking, on advocacy, on research. We work in these general areas. And I suppose with the COVID-19 crisis, obviously the whole world took a sucker punch, so to speak. And it was, it was very tough for everyone to adapt and adjust. But I guess one of the things what I've noticed, I suppose, is that in some ways, like the food sovereignty and agroecology movements were not necessarily made for this moment, but certainly have a robustness to them and a resilience to them that means that they're kind of able to cope with some aspects of what's happening now. The idea that, local food should have a good network, a good set of processing and production and so on, that food should be culturally appropriate, that chimes very much with right now, that inputs should be circular, that they should be local. So the agroecology movement has a lot to offer right now, as does the food sovereignty movement. So as does the solidarity economy movement more broadly. So I suppose I was just very interested in seeing how all of these different initiatives in different parts of Europe were coping with this long now of COVID. So, and with the other crises as well that we're seeing unfolding. So I was inspired by things like the Open Food Network, which, I mean, in a way, I suppose there was digital disruption, with technology was one thing that was happening. And then with COVID, we had disruption leading to the potential of technology to come into its own. Technology that we control, that we own. So not just random big data type technology, but technology that, that we ourselves can be involved in and involved in shaping. And also then at the same time, the low input circular economy, robust kind of agroecological territorial systems. These are all things that I'm interested in, that ARC is interested in. So we wanted to bring people together to show people each other, to get people talking to each other, to get people from all over Europe engaging with each other about these issues, to co-learn, to have an opportunity to see what other people are doing, to learn from other people and to support each other in this tough time, to listen to each other, but also to support each other and learn from each other. So ARC 2020, we do that kind of thing in general, and we do it more through the website primarily and our newsletter and so on. But this is just our, a foray into, with Forum Synergies, into doing it, digitally through webinars, because events are more difficult at the moment. So I'll pass back to Davy, who can carry on from now.
Thanks, Ollie. So I'm Davy Phillip. I'm also based in Ireland, in Cluj, Jordan, where Ollie is. Myself and Ollie are very involved in our community-supported agriculture community farm, and have in the last 4 months been working with a group of cooperators, other farmers and markets to look at the Open Food Network in Ireland, and we're progressing that. We're going to hear about that today. So today I think we're going to be inspired. But it's really important that we also have an opportunity to share our insights. And to do that, we're going to use the chat function. So we're going to go into the first section, which is around food hubs and regional initiatives to access farmers' food. And we're going to hear 3 presentations. They're all going to be quite short, 10 minutes. And it would be very good if we could collect any insights or reflections, or if there's any real clarifying questions, just put them in the chat as well. We might be able to hear some of those, but we can capture those, and Forum Synergies can send a little report along with the recording of this. So our main objective is to hear these different stories and see if there's learnings that we can adapt and progress a similar direction in our own country. So we're gonna, so just use the chat. If you have any problems with the chat, it's at the bottom toolbar. You can see the chat button, or if there's an other button that'll be in there. So we're going to have 3 presentations from Portugal, Greece and Romania in this first section. And Artúr, if you can just get ready. Artúr in Portugal, maybe just explain where you are when you come in, Artúr. But Artúr's going to share his screen. And Artúr, you have 10 minutes. Marina will give you 3 minutes to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Davy.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here with you it's a pleasure to share our experience for this initiative. So I think you are looking at my screen now. We are an NGO. We are also a local development organization. We are a leader group since the first time. We are the Certificate Vocational Training Center, and we work since '88 on community-driven sustainable development strategies. We are located in the south of Portugal, just across all Europe. So now that you know where we are, we have done in the past 31 years, almost 32 years, several sustainable development projects. Some of them, most of them connect themselves and join efforts in creating local development strategies. Today, I will enlighten one of them that it's more relevant for the subject that we are here speaking. The challenge was thrown away to us by the health ministry with a growing problem from the past financial crisis of food security. People were getting more difficult to access proper food in quality and quantity. So we were challenged to create a food security observatory, a governance model based on a partnership, and an action plan for food education. So our mission was to make people believe that food can and must be delicious, healthy, and affordable based on the principles of the Mediterranean lifestyle. So we, of course, we had to communicate. We had to do a good communication strategy, and we start in a blank plate like this. So with this, we fill it with questions, doubts. How does eating, why does eating have to be expensive? It's a myth that people have. Can healthy food also be tasty? Where can I get right food for my plate? And so the answers start coming. The proper proportion between elements that we should eat, the preference that we should give to local and seasonal products, the idea that it's possible to have a proper, decent meal only with €1, and that making good food choices reduce waste and climate change. So food is power, and it's our power. And there is a wise choice, a proper choice, always suited to my needs. So the name was born. The right dish, o prato certo in Portuguese, choose your plate wisely in the translation to English. This is a simple element that could join people around the act of empowerment over food. So we developed a food education strategy. First, we had to know exactly what we were dealing with. Knowledge is fundamental. We did a survey on almost 400 households all over the region, and we found out that, for example, less than a quarter of the persons that were inquired had a good relationship with Mediterranean diet food pattern. That means with a proper traditional food that it was healthy and that their grandfathers had. Almost a third of them had some degree of food insecurity, but there were 3.1% of moderate food insecurity and 2.1% of severe food security. That is impossible to have on the 21st century. It's not acceptable to have such numbers in the region. And on the other side, we had over 50%, over 60% of people with pre-obesity or obesity. Clearly, some people were really eating bad, some people were eating less than they should and in the wrong way. So knowledge, we became to understand a little bit how the distribution of food insecurity was on the region. The second level of intervention was intervention. We had food education awareness actions in capacity building for educators, health educators, and social facilitators. We are doing practical food empowerment activities for school students, active seniors, and people with low food literacy. They are usually vulnerable groups, where minorities, ethnic groups, or people with very low school degrees. Also, we did food education. We are doing food education awareness actions for the overall community and a strong food education communication on social media. We are on a project that has planned 290 activities over 3 years until 2022, involving more than 3,000 people and producing, that's our goal, an increase of 25% in the choices, in the food choices of the people that are a part of these activities. We did things like a kind of a cookbook, that it's not a cookbook, it's a lifestyle guide for people to have a proper suited meal. We did things like a guide for food education that everybody, what is either a teacher, a parent, a trainer, can use to organize food education activities with their publics. And we create a very good, strong cooperation model, a food security observatory with a continuous monitoring of the food security in the region and also in the country, a governance model for the partnership, and a cooperation platform joining caretakers, facilitators, educators, decision makers, local producers, citizens, and consumers. This digital platform is a very good basis to learn again what are the local seasonable products, fruits, vegetables, fishes, and whatever. It's a good place for sharing good practices, for understanding the principles of Mediterranean diet, of the Mediterranean lifestyle. So we came into social intervention. We designed a very different way to get into people. People don't need to come to us, we go to them. So we have a food education mobile unit prepared to go everywhere. They can go
3 minutes left.
to a gypsy camp, they can go to everybody, to every small community, working with people on food education. And we have done a lot of food education materials that are all available in the platform. And one of them is a very strong tool. It's a national database for producers, markets, and baskets. This tool started as a regional tool, but soon with the crisis, with the COVID crisis, grow up to a national level. In 3 months, we passed it from 70 producers to 230 producers inscribing in the network, 113 food baskets, and 110 local markets. So it's really a tool that people took care. So COVID-19 has been the pretext for a national campaign for local production and proximity consumption. And we will have soon the launch of an app based on this producer database, and also on an evaluation process that certificates that these producers are really 100% local. So this is a project done for people by people. So we have a lot of fun going to people, joining them, working with them, learning with them also. This is some ideas of some images of the activities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Artur. That was ideal. Please, everyone, if you've got any reflections or even questions for Artur, put them in the chat. We're moving from Portugal all the way down to Greece now, and Jenny from Agroecology is going to give us a short presentation on a project they did around implementing a nationwide digital and social media campaign promoting the direct links between producers and consumers all over the country of Greece. So Jenny, you're very welcome, and thank you.
Hi there, hi everyone. I hope you'll be able to see my screen because I was experiencing some lagging just before, so I hope it's okay now. So first of all, I wanted to say that although Greece hasn't featured so much when it comes to the COVID cases, we didn't have as many of them, but in terms of how it affected the society, it was almost exactly the same as in Italy, for example. So here's a very quick overview of when things started happening in Greece. So from the time that we had the first case, it was less than a month until we went to complete lockdown by March the 23rd. And I'm just sharing this with you because this is actually the corona situation has pushed forward deep pathogenicities of the agricultural sector. And so something had to be done. There's no time to obviously go into what these pathogenicities are now. But what I can say is that we had a very quick chat with about 30 producers from around the country around that time. And we found out that, yes, they're all facing issues, and collectively as an assembly, we decided that something needs to be done. And what was to be done was an online, now you're looking at the web page, the main web page of this campaign that we're running. So we all decided that it was time that we promote local, small producers, small agroecological food. And we also said that this is the time that we need to go further than the normal recipients of actions that we've been doing in the past. Here you can see the main logo of the campaign, which is using elements of the logo the government was using, the stay-at-home one. And here it says, from our field to your farm. Within the first 4 days of going live, and this was mainly on Facebook and a couple of more media pages. So within the first 4 days, we had like 400 responses from people. To organize this, because obviously this was an ad hoc thing. We didn't have time to plan. It actually came at a very bad time for all of us. But we've organized 4 different volunteer groups. 2 of them are dealing with the dissemination, with creating the video, the context, the logo, and everything else. And the other 2 are dealing with this matchmaking between producers and consumers. The 3rd group is dealing just with the producers. And so we've kind of created an ad hoc, let's say, participatory guarantee system. Most of the people working in these volunteer groups, they have experience in setting up no intermediary and no intermediary markets and eco festivals in the past, so they know, how to deal with that. So we were able to create an ad hoc system to kind of guarantee what happens with the producers and whether they stick to the same rules and principles as we all want. As you can see here, we haven't accepted everybody that was involved. This has created other issues because, as I said, we're an assembly. And so this is giving you an idea of what these producers are actually producing. For me, the most important one is this one in the middle that shows the average farm size. So you see with less than a hectare, which for Greece is kind of normal, but for the average EU size is quite low. And of course, it's very important that we stuck by these people because they don't get any subsidies. They are not, part of the big banking system. The other thing I want to say is that, of course, as expected, on the side of consumers, most of them come from big cities, from Thessaloniki and Athens, as most of the people live in these big cities anyway. This is a disbursement of where these connections are. Got another 25 yet is because we've got consumers who are interested, but there's not either, there's no producers to cater for that area, or the ones that are there don't have enough produce to cater for the people. And so for us, this is a very important thing. I mean, it's the first time that such a campaign is running in Greece, and it's the first time that so many different networks and associations of farmers are getting together for something like this. But one, we see that consumers are getting involved. This is a three coupling with the farmers. We've decided to use Facebook. It's not the best, it's not the most encrypted, it's not the most ethical, but it's something that is widely used by people in Greece. And since we had to find quick and different screenshots here, on the far right, you see the
Jenny,
post.
you
So
have
for the first
3 minutes.
they
3 minutes left.
Thank
Could you turn off? Could you turn off your camera?
I've turned off our video now, just to see if it helps.
Thanks.
Keep going, Jenny.
Okay. So on the first time that they come on board, they have to introduce themselves to the consumers, say a few things about them, about their farm and everything. And then we go to the far left, where is the weekly post each producer makes in each city that they can cater. And so they say what is available this week. And then in the middle, you kind of see an idea of how the interaction happens between producers and consumers. This is, I mean, we got the idea loosely from the Reco example in Finland. And I saw Thomas here, I think it's Thomas Snellman, so he might be happy to hear this. So this is how we started. We are continuing this way. I will just go back to, so this is the website, and here we are adding links to every new group that is being created. There's a lot of discussion going on now about the future of this, because we all, the volunteers and us, we started working in March. We said we are going to do this until the middle or end of July, but it's obvious that this needs to keep going. We really don't know how we're going to do that in terms of resources. And also for me, this shows what we have to do in the future in terms of advocacy, in terms of, you know, peri-urban farming that needs to be, because for example, during the COVID situation where there was this ban on movement, the small farmers, they were able to send their produce, but it was impossible for them to travel with their produce. So it wasn't possible for them to attend farmers markets or to deliver CSA packages. You know, it was a bit of an issue. So we see, you know, what is opening for us in terms of advocacy, but also there is a bit of a discussion going on, because we would rather direct most of this into CSA, into community supported agriculture. And I see that there is a lot of movement on that side. But the obvious and the easiest next step would be to set up a platform. And we haven't decided yet, because many of us think that if we set up a platform, then this strong connection between producer and consumer just won't happen. So this
hey Jenny, we're going to come to a close there.
I was just saying that this is I just finished.
Okay. Jenny, thank you. That's fascinating. A Reco ring on Facebook. If there's any clarification needed or insights, please put them in the chat. And we're going to move from Greece and back up to Romania now to hear a little story from Anna in Civitas. So Anne, can you hear us? There we go.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen now. This is the, okay, now you can see it, right? Okay, my name is Ana. I'm the project manager of the Nod Verde Food Hub in Romania. I work for Civitas Foundation. The Nod Verde means in English, the green nut. So I will be speaking today about the food hub movement in Romania, about what have we done until now, but most of all, we want to tell you how was the situation here in Romania and how did we adapt to this situation. The context of the development of the food hubs in 2018, we have developed a network of food hubs around Romania in order to promote short food supply chain initiatives around the cities we are working in and to bring new market opportunities for the local producers and also for our consumers, an alternative for them to buy local products. Here is the map of our food hubs. Where are they in the country? We are Civitas, Nod Verde, and very short. I will speak about our values and why are they important to us: connection, support, honesty, sustainability, trust, care, and gratitude. Because we think that this is the most important part to create the connection between the local farmers and the consumers, especially in this time, in these times of pandemic. And I will tell you what has happened to us. In terms of numbers, we have now more than 200 products available on our platform. It's an online shop. People can come on the web page and make their order. We are supporting now more than 60 local farmers, and we have worked before the Covid-19 has started with more than 15 partner restaurants in Cluj. We have also, as customers, we have young women with children, and the product range goes from bakery products to dairy products and cheese. What we want is to bring people to deliver to their home the Nod Verde box, the green nut box that can contain everything a family would need in terms of local products, and it's of course seasonal. We have created a community, the Nod Verde community, through community events. We have participated to street food festivals, to festivals in local communities, family events. But also we have always wanted to bring together the farmers and the consumers. So we have organized several events at the local farmers, so people can meet them and can see where the food comes from farm to fork. Also, about the Nod Verde community, it was very important for us to create a community where people can engage in discussion and debates, and to see how the local producers can be more supported, and how can we help them to grow their business. Now, in terms of the new situation, for us it was also difficult, as for many of us working in this industry. We have faced many challenges. But what we have learned from this is that you can have a problem and transform it in an opportunity. So the first boom for us was after we had the emergency situation put on in the country. In March, our customers increased with over 400%. Comparing them with March 2019, and this was a big challenge for us, but also for our producers, because they did not have, not all of them did have the opportunity or the possibility to bring together so many products in such a short time. So what we have done was to work with the same producers and try to engage others in our community, in our platform. We have developed strict hygiene rules, wearing masks and gloves, because we had 2 colleagues delivering the packages to our customers' homes. And also we have only had online payment, avoiding staff contact with customers when handing over the Nod Verde box and maintaining social distance. And as I was saying before, we had these challenges regarding the producers, but also regarding the consumers, because we saw that at the beginning they were willing to adapt to the new ordering and labeling rules, but also they were so many of them. People were in their homes, they were in lockdown. So what we have seen and experienced during this period of time was that people were getting closer to the producers. They also wanted to help them, but they wanted to feed their family with local and healthy food. And our conclusion after this or during this time is that we have a new type of producers. This type of platform, as Nod Verde is, has increased, the model has become more popular. Our producers had to make sure they still have where to sell their products, not only with Nod Verde, so they were developing new platforms promoting their food. They were creating Facebook pages, and they were getting closer and closer to the consumer. And this is a model that is still going strong here in our region, but also in Romania. And in terms of customers, what we have seen is that people are more open-minded, and they respect more the farmers, and they respect more the people that are bringing their food. And for us, it was very important to see that even after the lockdown was gone, people stick with us, and we are working closely to promote and to help and support our producers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. That was perfect. So if you've just arrived, we've just had 3 presentations from Portugal and Greece and now Romania. And so we've got a little bit of time here that we could either take some reflections or questions. Now, I can't see, we've now 54 people in the room, so can you put an H in the chat if you'd like to come in with a reflection to share or a brief question. Otherwise, we can reflect on some of the things that have come in in the chat. So there's quite a bit of discussion on the chat. You can see around the use of Facebook, the need to use Facebook in the short term, the idea of reaching Facebook, both in some of the stories there. So would anyone like to actually come in with the letter, either put your hand up or put the letter H in the chat, and then we can see that you want to come in. And that would be great to hear some other voices. So please consider that. Okay. Ollie, maybe you could just reflect there.
Yeah, thanks for those. They were really interesting. One thing I noticed was the step up to the national happened quite quickly. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how, Portugal went from regional to national, Greece went from, a campaign kind of movement into a national network. Just that step over point. What were the barriers? What were the enablers to that step over from just being regional or just being, online and campaigny? If any of the presenters could maybe speak to that.
Okay, Artúr, Jenny, or Aran?
Yes,
Artúr?
I can share a little bit. we already had this was born as a regional project for the south of Portugal, but we already saw the potential. So on the technological point of view, we let everything prepare to grow up. But in the first stage, it was exclusive, only regional. But when COVID started, the demand for local producers to enter the platform and to show their products and to enter was so strong from all over the country that quickly we updated the solution, the technological solution, to welcome people all over, and they grab it in a very surprising way. It was not our plan, it was not our idea. We just respond to the demand of the local producers that decided not to load their arms, but to fight and to provide the support for people that were desperate for really good food, and they couldn't go to markets. Markets were closed. They couldn't go to supermarkets because they were on heavy restrictions. So they go to local production. This means a very good, strong sign for everybody. Local production has to be an alternative, a sustainable alternative for the future. It cannot be just a leftover thing for some freaks that use this type of supply. This has to be so strong, so structured as supermarket can be. This needs to be on the table of everybody's choices.
Brilliant, Artúr. Brilliant, Artúr. Jenny or Anna, do you want to add anything there?
Yes. Or? I'm not going to turn my video on because you said that the sound is not so good. So I'm afraid you'll just have to do with my voice.
We can hear you well.
How did we do that? First of all, Greece is a very small country, both in population and in geographical terms. Secondly, I think that the reason why, I mean, as I said, this is something that started with the producers, right? From the producers' side. And I think the main reason why we were able to do that is because we had producers coming into this assembly from all over the place, right from the start. And the reason we were able to have producers from all over the country was because of who we are, of what we do. I mean, we are an organization that is seen by the people as part of the movement. So we are trusted by them. And in fact, I don't think, I mean, because we've been discussing this quite a lot as well, this kind of a campaign could not have been instigated by anybody else. Because if it had been, say, the Association of Organic Growers, then all the other people would not have participated. So because we are seen, you know, as the people in the middle who are looking out for everyone, we were able to do that, and we were able to draw this collaboration from all sides.
Thanks, Jenny. Anna, do you have anything to add? Or there's a couple of questions I can bring in. Anna?
Yes, thank you. For us, for our food hub, we are now working on going nationwide because we have so many people asking for this, and now we are trying to grow our business into delivering nationwide. But also, I would like to add, I was writing here in the chat, but I will just be very short about the farmer and the consumer that we are working with. Our farmers must be small to medium sized, and their farms should be situated not more far than 150 kilometers from Cluj. And also we have seen that our consumers are people in their 30s with small children. Most of them are asking for local food and from natural food in order to bring healthy food for their children.
Great. There's a couple of questions in, both from Tina and originally from Maria Penova. How much of this growth that we have seen there could be sustained in the long term? Also, do we see any challenges in keeping the growth or even this level achieved, having in mind the economic crisis, which has now just started? And Tina has the same thing. We've only a minute left. Anyone want to respond to that. I mean, I don't think we need to necessarily maintain these levels of growth, these sudden spikes. It's having more people shopping locally and using production locally and creating stronger and more resilient local food economies would be, I think, the objective of our many different projects, the Reco Rings and these different approaches to getting producers to the consumer. So I don't think we necessarily have to sustain those levels of growth. I mean, you're going to hear from OFN next, and they also experience in COVID ridiculous percentages of growth. So do we need to sustain that? I'm not sure. And Thomas, I think you're making a really good point there on the impact of the Reco Ring using Facebook, more than 500 circles globally in 12 different countries, 1.5 million members, and the producers today is about 20,000, and with a turnover reaching potentially 100 million. All very good, and as you say, using Facebook. Well, why is that a problem? Maybe it's not a problem, maybe we can have more reach. But I think after the next presentation, we might be clearer on why open source platforms might be more secure, and that communities and local producers having a stake or an ownership of that platform could be healthy. So maybe we'll just segue straight into Nick, if you're ready, Nick. Nick is from the UK. He's with the Open Food Network, which is actually operating in 13 countries. And Nick will give us an introduction to an open source platform that can enable stronger, more resilient local food economies. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Davey, and hello, everybody. Very nice to be part of this group. Very exciting to see so many people interested in short food supply chains, which is what I'm interested in.
You're breaking up, Nick. Maybe I'll take your video off or take your video off.
On an allotment-based CSA in the UK. Okay, yeah, for sure. Thanks, Davey.
Okay, perfect.
And I also helped to set up a community-supported agriculture project here in the UK, which is now a 50-acre project with 200 members. But my interest in this conversation is to do with the Open Food Network, which is an open source platform cooperative. As Davey said, it's owned cooperatively by the people who built it. The people who built it are people like me, people like you on this call, people who are building community food enterprises of many kinds. I'm going to talk through very briefly how the software works, but I do want to just touch on the point Davey introduced me with about open source. We believe that we need to build better food systems. The current food systems don't work because of the constriction in the supply. There are hundreds of thousands of food producers in the world. There are millions of people who eat the food, but there's probably only about 30 companies that control the distribution of that food. And we believe that's not safe, that's not secure, that's not resilient. What we want to have is a food system that is owned by everybody. We don't want anybody to be able to pull the plug on our food system. So what we've done is built a piece of software that's been built collaboratively by people who want to build different food systems from the grassroots up. The software can be deployed by anybody. It has been deployed in 13 countries. Over the last 2 months, there have been another 10 countries that have started deploying, including Brazil and India and Costa Rica and several others. But we want to build a single global system that will enable anybody to distribute food to the people who need it. What you see on the screen here is the map of the UK. The little tractor symbols are producers, food producers in the UK. There's about 6,000 of them registered on the Open Food Network. And the little shop symbols that you'll see occasionally are shops. They may be food hubs, they may be food banks, they may be buying groups, they may be people who have a food cooperative buying from a wholesaler and distributing food. The important thing is that they're all using the same software. Each one of these dots will have a shop front that looks a little bit like this. I'm now showing you one of those many shops that is selling a whole range of different produce. You can see down here there are ways of filtering by the type of the produce. There's also certain properties, so you can filter by plastic free or vegan or locally produced. Against each product, apologies to the vegans on the call, I've picked a bad shop front here, but against each product you can click to see a bit more detail about the product with a description. And you can also see who produced it. So this is a food hub. This is a hub that is selling produce from multiple different producers. And they are a cooperative. They've brought together a range of different producers into their co-op, and they also have shopper members. But this is one of their co-op members who is selling beef, and you can click on their on the hub shop front and get a lot of detail about exactly what is this food and how is it produced. And you've got contact details, so you can actually see, you can contact the people who produce the food. So that's how the shopfront works. Against every product, you can see a little pie chart against the price, and you can then break down that price and see how much of the selling price is going to the producer, and then there is a markup added by the hub, and the hub manages the distribution. It collects the produce together, sorts it into boxes. The produce then goes out for home delivery or out to pickup points. So that's how the shop front works. Let's maybe place a dummy order here. Let's put a couple of orders in. Let's go to the basket. When the shopper checks out, they get various different options in terms of where they pick up their produce from. You can see here this hub has set up several distribution points. In this case, they're all free. If this hub was doing home delivery, they would charge for that, and that charge will be added to the basket at checkout. And then there's various different payment options, so PayPal, Stripe, credit cards, bank transfer, cash, whatever. Those are all set up by the manager of the shop front. So that's the front end very quickly. The back end is where the producers will add their products. So the producer will set up the name of the product, the type of product that they're producing. Whether it's a weight or volume, they'll give it a category, and they'll set a price. And you saw on the shop front that the hub might make a markup. This is the selling price that the producer will be paid by the hub, and then there may be a markup on top of that. The producer will add an image to there, and they will also put some free text in there, possibly with a link to their own pages. So the producer set up the products. They then will give permission to the shop front. It may be that the producer will actually sell direct. That's the simplest way that the Open Food Network works. The producer will set up their products, they will set up their shipping methods and their payment methods, and they will start to sell direct to shoppers. And they do have the option to give permission to anybody else who is using the same software to sell their products. So what we're seeing here is where a producer can give permission to a hub to sell their products, to add their products to an order cycle. An order cycle is a period during which a shopper can place an order for. Am I still okay? Can people still hear me? I thought I was muted there. Yeah.
We can hear you. You're muted for a second, but it's fine now.
Okay, good. So
just three minutes and something left.
Yeah, great. So the producer gives permission to add to the order cycle. The producer can also give permission to the hub to manage their enterprise for them. That's been happening a lot in COVID. I'm running out of time here, but there's a huge amount of functionality that enables the shopfront manager to add products to their order cycle, produce reports, review orders, manage the groups, customize the shopfront according to different types of shoppers who may be vulnerable and who get special requirements during COVID. I want to use my last couple of minutes to talk about COVID. In the last 8 weeks, the turnover of the Open Food Network in the UK has gone up by 850%. People who previously didn't understand the need for short food supply chains suddenly do understand the need for short food supply chains. People who couldn't get a slot at a supermarket to actually order food from a supermarket were getting food from their local food hubs. The food hubs responded very quickly, and they gave priority access to vulnerable people, priority access to key workers. Many producers who were selling through cafes and restaurants, suddenly their business dried up overnight. They've been using the Open Food Network to find different routes to market, to sell their produce to local buyers. And we've been doing a lot of work adapting the software to enable the shop fronts who were not doing home deliveries but were having pickup points to allow social distancing, so that shoppers who were coming to the shop, to the pickup points to pick up their produce, they were given a time slot. So they came at a specific time to pick up their produce, just to make sure that people didn't all arrive at the same time. So it's just a way of adapting the software to make it suitable for the COVID situation. I'm really happy to take more questions. I'm just about out of time, but yes, we've seen massive growth. It is starting to level out now, interestingly, and I would like to come back to the question about how we maintain, maybe not maintain the growth. We cannot cope with 850% growth over 8 weeks, but I would like to find a way to maintain the plateau that we're hitting at the moment. I think that's my time, so I'm going to hand back to Davey. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Nick. That was my fault. You muted. I was trying to unmute or mute someone who his microphone came off. Thanks for that, Nick. That was interesting. There's some already discussion in the chat. If anyone would like to make a reflection or an insight, we have 5 minutes for this, and then we're going to go into breakouts for further reflection. So type H if you would like to come in with either a clarity question or any reflection that you're seeing or pattern you're seeing could be interesting. I mean, one of the things that was just discussing between Ollie, Jenny and myself as Nick was talking is that sometimes platforms can be conceived that they're taking away that social, that community aspect of a co-op or a farmer's market. We've found that outside COVID times that you can actually still design that in with the pickup. So when people come to pick up their orders, what's been ordered on the platform, you can put in some social, maybe even some education, meet a farmer type pieces. So we're seeing the potential of still having that social and not the anonymous aspects of platforms. Would anyone like to actually come in and speak? If you do, put an H in the chat. I'm trying to pick out to see if there's any other pieces that might be worth. What are the Open Food Network's financial resources? There's a question. Maybe Nick, you could just unmute and quickly give us how does it work financially? Quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, the Open Food Network in the UK asks anybody who's selling through the Open Food Network to give 2% of their OFN turnover to the OFN community in the UK to help cover server fees and support costs and so on. I'm going to put up in the chat in a moment the link to our pricing schedule. As an organisation grows, then we reduce the contribution, the percentage contribution that they pay. But that is one of the ways we get funding through user contributions. We also do have some philanthropic funding, but it's been a very small amount of funding that has created this very complex piece of software. I hope that answers the question.
There's another question here about the task for producers who might not be used to the platforms getting their products up there, the transactions. How are they supported, Nick?
Yeah, so we do have a very good support team in the UK. We've also had a lot of volunteers coming forward during the COVID situation. And we do now have some trained up volunteers who will take all the details of each new producer, so their name, email address, postcode, and so on, and a list of products, and we will upload those products on behalf of the producer. So any producers who don't have the technical understanding to do what I just did on the screen there to add their products, we can do that for them. And there's also a product import facility. If the producer has a spreadsheet with all of their products in a spreadsheet, that can be automatically imported into OFN.
Great. I'm sure all of the presentations have been quite short, so there's going to be a lot more clarity needed. But I know myself and Ollie have been looking at OFN for the last 2 months and are seeing a lot of potential, and especially advantages over, we have some proprietary digital platforms. That means they're owned and controlled, not by the community. And Nick gave an example of the Food Assembly, which was a proprietary venture capital funded platform that when it wasn't bringing enough in for the shareholders, just got pulled. And I think there was, I remember Nick, 60 markets left high and dry. And so this, a platform that's open source, that's owned by the community, potentially is safer. Do you want to say anything on that quickly, Nick?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Davey. 60 community food enterprises in the UK were using Food Assembly, and they were given 3 months' notice that they had to stop using the software because it was not making enough income for the shareholders. And some of them did manage to move to the Open Food Network, but of course it's quite a shock to lose your software system with just 3 months' notice. And that's why I really want to build an open source platform that cannot be taken away. It is owned by everybody. It is freely available. Anybody can deploy the software.
Is there any challenges in data protection or security? Just ask there on the chat.
No, anybody who's selling produce on the Open Food Network has access to their own data, but only their own data on the platform. Even though the software is free, the database is held securely by the people who deploy the software. So the software has been deployed by a cooperative company here in the UK, and we hold that data, and we are, restricted by the GDPR regulations on what we can do with that data. But if we stopped deploying the software in the UK, anybody else could pick up the software and redeploy it, and people would then need to take their data from our deployment and add it to the new deployment. But no, open source does not mean that anybody has access to the data. It doesn't make any difference to data protection.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you've got any other questions, insights, or reflections, please put them in the chat. We can then harvest those, collect those, and then share a short report. Some people are still just come into this session, so there might be, as we move into this next piece, we're planning to go into smaller groups, just for 15 minutes. Really an opportunity for us to in a small group, just to see what we've learned, if there's anything we'd like to apply, is there any lessons for our own communities in these COVID times, or now with the economic downturn, that we can strengthen our local economies. So there's no real question. I mean, that is the question. What new element did you learn about? What would you like to apply? And we're going to just go automatically into the breakouts. The breakouts may be lightly moderated, but probably not. Be nice to introduce yourselves quickly. This is only a 15-minute exercise, so really it's just your name, where you're from, and then see if we can get into a conversation about what have we learned here in these 4 presentations. What might we apply in our own local economies? And then we'll come back to a plenary, and then before we finish, we'll hear a reflection from ARC 2020, but that plenary will give us some time to discuss and maybe share some reflections from these breakouts. Is that okay with everyone? You don't have to do anything. I'm just going to send you to a room. You'll go automatically to the room, I think. You might have to hit a button, but let's see. Don't panic. If you don't get moved, hopefully we can move you around. It's a bit of an experiment. Let's see if it works. So remember, what have we learned and what could we apply, and just get to know each other. It'll only be 15 minutes. We'll see you back here in the plenary. I'm sending you the breakout rooms now. Okay, hopefully this works. Have a good conversation. I think this might be our breakout. So hopefully everyone can see each other and speak. Maybe do a quick introduction. Who would like to start? David, can you hear us? David Thomas from Canada. It's a long way away. Can you hear us? Can you unmute? No, he disappeared. Hello? Hello? Bluet, are you there? Helga, are you there? Luca? Julia? Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello? Anyone here? Okay. Welcome if you've just arrived here. Eva, can you hear me? Anna? Ah, there you are. They've just went off to breakout rooms. They've just had all the presentations. We're finishing in 20 minutes, but you're very welcome. I won't put you to a breakout room because that could be a little, they're reflecting on what they've heard. But do join us for the rest of the session. And I'd love to talk to you. We're trying to get this OFN, Open Food Network, set up. I think I might have mentioned to you before, Eva. And so let's have a chat maybe after in the next week or so. It'd be great. Anna, you're here. I can see your carpet. No. Oh well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Davey. look forward to it.
The presentations were interesting there. I'm blown away by the potential of the Open Food Network for regional or local markets now, and especially when you can add other things, not just food, other essentials, local craft. You know, you're then enabling an economy, a local economy, not just a local food economy.
Well, that's great.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. Are you hearing me?
Yes. Did you just join, or did you get thrown out a room?
I'm just joined now.
Okay.
Yeah.
People are in breakout rooms. So we have, I think, about 60 people. They're all in breakouts, and they're coming back in 5 minutes. So I can stay here. Maybe Anna and Ava, you can just introduce yourselves. I just have to go and find someone that's stuck in a room. So, okay, I'm just.
Okay, I'm Anna. I'm from Portugal.
Oh, hi,
from
Anna.
the north of Portugal, and I'm working presently. I'm working at University of Portugal of Porto. Yeah, in my area is plant protection and also organic food.
Sounds great, fantastic. My name is Elva. I am in Ireland, and I'm a farmer and an agricultural researcher. So I'm particularly interested in how farmers can reach consumers directly. And also I'm interested in, part of my enterprise is organic. I have organic sheep and organic vegetables, and I also teach agriculture in agriculture courses in the local agricultural college. So it's a little bit going on, but it's, yeah, no, I love it. And so plant protection, what kind of things are you doing?
In plant protection, mainly risk assessment in several plants. I mean vineyard, and also small soft fruits, and
Okay.
also vegetables, risk assessment, and also other things.
Ah, fantastic. That's really interesting. Well done. And do you know much about the Open Food Network?
Sorry?
Do you know much about the Open Food Network?
Not very much. No, it's the first time I'm here in this kind of things.
Ah, okay, good. Well, we are. I think I was late to the meeting, got my time wrong. So they've said they've done the presentations, and they're doing some breakouts to discuss the ideas, and then we're going to all meet again, I think. Okay. So I think that's what's happening. So I'm going to just I'm going to put my thing on mute because I have to just run and get a glass of water. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone in the main room. We're slowly coming back. Hopefully you had a conversation. Hopefully it was a valuable conversation, even though it was short. And we're now coming to the end. So as people are coming back to the plenary, our objective was to look at what did we learn, or what might we apply from what we've heard in our own local economies. Again, if we could use the chat to maybe just share any insights. And then when everyone gets in the room, I will invite some people to reflect. So we've only 5 minutes for reflections before I hand over to ARC 2020 for a keynote reflection, a very short one. So would anyone like to come in and share an insight they got from that little breakout? You can either put your hand up, or because there's 3 panels, put an H, the letter H, in the chat if you'd like to come in. And please, please consider coming in. It'd be lovely to hear your voice. No one? No one? Sorry. Oh, H. Sorry, Artúr. You want to come in? Artúr, welcome back.
Hello, hello. Just a quick reflection. We need to get out of our safety zone. That's why our focus with our project. It's not people that already know what they are looking for. It's not people that already look for specific products. It's not people that already are a part of this movement. We are focused on people that go to the supermarket, people that are targeted by the big industry, people that are huge consumers, people that do bad choices. This is our target. We need to bring them, the big mass public, we need to bring them to a sustainable pattern of consumption.
Brilliant, thanks Artúr. Molly Anderson, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you. In our group, we talked about how there may be value in sharing what's going on globally with people in our own communities, that it might increase their motivation to continue working with this. And there's a funny tension there because we're talking about a kind of global network of very, very local initiatives, but I think there could be some strength in that.
Thanks, Molly. Anyone else want to come in? Just put an H. I dropped in on one of the breakout rooms, and what was being discussed was, how do we sell this? How do we get more people to use local food producers and some of the local systems or platforms we've heard? My thought was, I think the veil has been lifted on how vulnerable we are to long supply chains, and the local economy is going to be the way that we securely access food if we've built those markets and relationships between our local food producers. So I do think that we don't necessarily have to sell this as much as we need to get the things in place, because as well as this shock we're in and the cascades of shocks, we're going to probably see, or we're definitely going to see many disruptions, but long supply chains and global food systems, and as Nick said, controlled by very few people, not going to be resilient for us into the long term. Any other reflections from your breakouts or from anything? Jenny, you want to come back in again?
Yes, I want to say something that is not something we discussed in the breakout room. Just a thought that's in my head. So in Greece, we saw people get really panicky because the news was telling them that the lettuce and the oranges they're buying from the supermarket, they have to wash it with soap. So this was the first time on broad media, the conversation about having to wash your food came out. And of course it was because of COVID, but many people, from the ecological sector were saying, well, this is not news. We had to do this with the supermarket food anyway. So I think that the mainstream, the average Joe, finally starting to see what the food is. So they've heard that food is, the best way that you can combat the virus, to have a good health system. And at the same time, they're realizing that this is not so easy to find. And now they're starting to see exactly this globalization of our food. And they are really getting to understand. So this is a very big chance for all of us. But it's also very demanding, and it's not so easy. I mean, it is a chance, but it's not so easy to capitalize on this chance because there's many other issues that we need to take care of.
No, you're right, Jenny. Thanks for bringing that in. Ren, is it Ren? Sorry, Gail Wren. Sorry, Gwyl Wren. Gwyl.
Thanks. I'm sorry, I can't read a European clock, so I joined you rather later than I should have done. But the various bits and pieces I've heard, the reflections I have are that COVID, in a way, I think needs to be treated perhaps as an opportunity to reset things. And certainly what we found in our part of the world, which is the west of England, is that the only thing that really worked was at a local level, and that regional responses that had very, very little impact on village communities like ours. So we all pulled together and we got prescriptions and we got food and shopping for the vulnerable people, and everything clustered around the village shop because you couldn't go to the supermarkets and things like that. And it's that kind of thing we need to capture. And as has been said, the absurdity of supply chains, very efficient if you want cheap food, but incredibly vulnerable. And of course, cheap food is anything but, because all the costs are hidden away in the environmental area and to an extent on social things. The second reflection I'd make is that I enjoy food as much as a social thing as anything else, and we've really gone away from that. I'm not sure what it's like in the rest of Europe, but certainly in the UK there is a real sense that food is just for refueling and then you go off and do something else. And in actual fact, we need to sort of rediscover the community, the bits and pieces that make us human, and eating together and eating properly and taking time over your food is an important component of that.
Thanks, Gwyl. The high cost of low price, that's a challenge, and the conviviality of eating, a convivial act that I think definitely in UK and maybe in parts of Ireland we've lost. Definitely other parts of Europe, that's still a big thing, but we have to think a bit wider. Now we are really coming to the end. Jenny, you wanted to come in again, maybe come in quickly, and then I'm going to hand over to Ollie from Art 2020 for a sort of slightly bigger reflection, and then to Marina from Forum Synergies just for a closing. So just so you know that we're moving out, please, any reflections, insights you're having, put them in the chat because they can be brought in to some sort of report. Jenny.
I just wanted to say that during this time, because we're in contact with various kinds of initiatives, it was the difference with how they responded to the COVID situation between an established CSA group and something different, all the other different things, even this campaign, was huge. So to my mind, and this is why I kept saying that we are a little skeptical about creating a platform, because when we're talking about building long-term resilience and sustainability, having very close relationships is really very beneficial. So, and this was very clear for us in the COVID times.
Thanks for that, Jenny. I do think that the platforms, and in platform thinking, the platform's not just the digital website. The platform is the people and the arrangements we have and the relationships we have. So you're totally right. We have to make sure that we still build that social capital and community, even if we're using a digital platform to enable that sort of local food economy. Any other insights, please put into the chat, or reflections, or even questions maybe Forum Synergies can do something with. I'm going to hand over now to Oliver Moore from ARC 2020, and just to give a little reflection before Marina will close this session. Ollie.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so that was very interesting to catch all of those presentations and conversations. In our breakout, actually, we discussed the Italian gas system as well, the group solidarity purchasing system. And just to build on what Jenny was saying as well, the response from a CSA kind of network versus a more generic response, it's definitely interesting when you have a bit of a structure, when you have a plan, when you already have bought into the idea of the real costs of food and having to make a connection with producers and so on, that it certainly helps. It's like we in our farm here in Cluj as well, you know, we kind of mobilized very quickly and very efficiently and, you know, got our systems in place to hygienically move food around with large numbers of people. And it worked fine, and the local doctor was very impressed with us and so on. But it was definitely easier to work from that basis. So what makes me kind of think now, or rather what I'm thinking about now, is I think we need to be sure to try and put some structures in place now for the midterm, because people might start to drift away from what we're doing. They might start to lose attention as the lockdown lifts. So I think starting to look at membership schemes, starting to encourage people into CSAs, starting to maybe as well looking at things like Open Food Network, where at least there's a platform that people can, you know, be part of. Now, there was some talk in the chat as well about, you know, solidarity transport as well. Like, how do people get around? How does food get around in this kind of COVID context? And lots of this was very interesting. The chat in the dialogue here was very interesting, and even in our discussion on the gas, it was interesting that, you know, young people were cycling food around in the to older people in the crisis moment. But yeah, I think membership and structure could be things that we need to start looking at from now, because we've had this wave, we've all stepped up. It's been quite interesting to look at all of these different countries and how things went suddenly national and so on. But working out a next step that involves a slightly deeper commitment from people that encourages them to buy into this in a longer term way could be great, because, you know, we've been looking for growth in a way for a long time for the Alternative Agri-Food Network, for CSAs, for the solidarity economy, for, you know, producer-consumer relations. We've been looking for that. And now we've had a little burst. We've connected with these new people. So I think we need to look at things like membership and structure and platforms to enable that connection to carry on. And obviously, as like from what Jenny was saying as well, work out ways to keep some personal relationships going between producers and consumers, being creative about that, thinking about, because as well, the outdoors is easier to be in right now than the indoors. It's harder to be in meeting in halls. It's easier to meet on farms. You know, it's because of the wind. It's simple. But with COVID, the wind is useful. So, you know, it could be that we have to do a little bit more on farms or in open air setups. I mean, it is still summer. So those are just some of my reflections, and we're going to try and harvest as many of these reflections as we can, harvest the notes. People are asking about sharing email addresses and so on. If you want, go ahead. But we will keep, we will, you know, communicate with people in this group about the next steps and so on. But I don't think we can just give out everyone's email address, because not everyone agreed to that in advance. But we can certainly email everyone about what our next steps are, what our next event will be, and we'll, you know, help people to connect up as much as possible. So thanks for facilitating there, Davey. Thanks for all the contributions. And I think Marina is coming in next.
Well, I'll just finish up here, Ollie. So thanks for that. So one last piece from me, just will be another 5 minutes before we actually close. And it'd be great, as Ollie was saying there, to capture any insights or reflections in the chat so that we can look at how growing food resilience in COVID-19 times, the sort of approaches that we have discussed. Let's get some good insights for that. I've really enjoyed facilitating you, and I'm handing back to Marina now from Forum Synergies for the closing words. Marina.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Oliver, also. I will come back to what Oliver was saying, that yes, we will intend to keep in touch all together to send, I don't know if newsletters or at least outputs of this section of this webinar, and to start in a way to follow building that community we were talking about. That's also a starting point to have met here, so different people from Europe and from different places. I wanted to share also that we are just, it's something we talked before starting this webinar, that it might be the first one of a series of webinars around that food topics. It's still something to be defined, but we think that there are really interesting experiences locally based. In our case, it's what interests us, that could inspire how and help organizing self-sufficient or resilient communities. And if you think so, I think it's interesting also to know, to have your feedback on that. We'll probably send you a kind of evaluation form or whatever, so your feedback is welcome on that. And yes, I really thank you for that. I also have the feeling that we need to meet, so the tool is there. It's not the objective in itself, it's just to support, to build community, as Zoom is now for us. And we have to follow in that sense also with our own food communities. The tools are there, but we have to follow creating awareness among our people. So energy and courage for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao, thank you. Congratulations to all.
Okay.
David, can I have a quick chat with you about this recording? What do you want me to do with it?
Yeah, did you record, Nick? I thought
Yeah.
we were recording it.
No, nobody was recording it. I just thought I'd give it a go, and it worked.
Could you send it to Marina so we could use it?
Yeah.
Which recording? I mean, I started the